Did you know that the most feared conqueror in history, Genghis Khan, whose armies swept across Asia and Europe like a storm, never set foot in India? Was it geography, military strength, or something more mysterious? Stick around till the end, because reason number one will absolutely shock you. Let's dive into one of history's greatest what-if scenarios. Why Genghis Khan never invaded India. Before we understand why he didn't attack India, we need to know who Genghis Khan really was. Born as Temujin in 1162, he was a Mongol tribesman who unified the Mongol steppe clans into a brutal war machine. By the early 13th century, he had created the largest contiguous land empire the world has ever seen, stretching from China to the Caspian Sea. His army was fast, ruthless, and tactical. They used horse archers, psychological warfare, and superior mobility. Cities that resisted were often wiped off the map, literally. So why did India escape this wrath? Here's the twist. Genghis Khan almost invaded India. In 1221, he was hot on the heels of a rebellious prince named Jalal ad-Din Mingburnu, the last ruler of the Khwarezmian Empire. Jalal fled south after Genghis crushed his army and eventually made his way into the Punjab region, what is now part of modern-day Pakistan. Genghis reached the Indus River, the western border of the Indian subcontinent. But instead of marching forward into India, he turned back. Why? Some argue that the Himalayas and harsh terrain deterred him. But here's the thing. Genghis wasn't afraid of mountains. He had already conquered difficult regions like Central Asia, Siberia, and northern China. The northwest passage into India, via the Khyber Pass, had been used by invaders before and after him. So geography alone doesn't explain it. There must be deeper reasons behind this historic decision. India during Genghis Khan's era was not a unified empire. It was divided into several regional kingdoms and sultanates, like the Delhi Sultanate under Iltutmish, who ruled from 1211 to 1236. Ironically, this disunity may have worked in India's favor. Genghis preferred to crush strong, centralized empires like the Khwarezmians or the Jin dynasty in China. India's fragmented political scene made it a less attractive conquest, at least strategically. When Jalal ad-Din entered Punjab seeking refuge, he hoped the Indian rulers would join him against the Mongols. But Iltutmish, ruler of the Delhi Sultanate, refused to help. This smart diplomatic move signaled to Genghis that India had no interest in harboring his enemies. Genghis, a master strategist, took this as a reason to avoid unnecessary conflict. Why waste resources fighting a neutral power? The Mongol war machine depended on open plains, horses, and mobility. India's monsoon climate and dense jungles would have made it extremely hard for Mongol cavalry to maneuver. Also, their supply lines would be stretched thin in the subcontinent's unfamiliar terrain. Experts suggest that invading India could have bogged down the Mongols in a long, exhausting campaign. And Genghis wasn't the type to take foolish risks. At the time, Genghis Khan was expanding eastward into China and had his eyes on the Jin dynasty. Diverting his attention to India would have slowed down his plans in the east. He was also dealing with internal challenges and managing his vast empire. In other words, India was not a priority. There's an interesting theory that Genghis Khan, despite his brutal methods, had a respect for Indian civilization. India was known for its ancient wisdom, trade wealth, and diverse religions. It's said that the Mongols were curious about Buddhism, which had deep roots in India, and even respected Indian scholars. This isn't a confirmed reason, but it adds a fascinating cultural dimension to the story. Although Genghis never invaded India, the Mongols didn't stay away forever. His descendants, like Timur, Tamerlane, and Babur, did enter India centuries later. In fact, Babur founded the Mughal Empire, which ruled India for over 300 years. So while Genghis himself never came, his bloodline would go on to shape Indian history in a big way. Recent research in 2025 from the Mongol Empire Project at the University of Ulaanbaatar suggests a new reason. Historical documents recovered from a monastery in Karakoram point to a secret council meeting in 1221, where advisors warned Genghis about the southern lands being cursed with disease and unrest. They referred to unknown illnesses, possibly the tropical diseases of the Indian subcontinent. Additionally, excavations in Gilgit-Baltistan unearthed Mongol arrowheads and coins, indicating how far they came before turning back. This reinforces the idea that the invasion wasn't stopped by chance, but by a deliberate decision. In the end, Genghis Khan's choice not to invade India may have spared millions of lives and preserved a different path for the subcontinent. It was a blend of diplomacy, geography, climate, timing, and perhaps a little wisdom. Had he marched into India, the cultural and historical landscape of South Asia might have looked completely different today. And that brings us back to the question, did Genghis Khan spare India, or did India outsmart him? So, what do you think? Was it strategy, climate, or destiny? Comment below with your thoughts. And if you learned something new, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more deep dives into untold stories from history. Until next time, stay curious. This is the Knowledge Hub, signing off.